Welcome back. It's time for Black and White. Now, yesterday, a story did make headlines on The Standard, among other online outlets and newspapers, where a man chose his mother over his wife, and that is forming the basis of a conversation. Can a mother and a mother-in-law and a wife live in the same household peacefully, or should it always devolve into conflict and, divorce, like in this case, or the mother-in-law being kicked out? Now, joining me to have that discussion is Moffat Kago, who is a psychologist. Welcome to the show, as well as Stephen Kigwa, who is a relationship expert. Karibu, gents.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start off. Is it even possible for a mother-in-law and a daughter to live in the same household? I'll start with you.
I think even from the story we can tell actually it is very difficult to do so.
It is difficult.
It's difficult to do. And actually you see that's the essence of you as a man leaving your father and mother.
Right.
To go and begin your own clan and family. So I think it is practically impossible for you to bring in your relatives into your house, and you actually got this woman to come into your house to live with you. So why do you want to bring in your mother? She might as well decide to say, I also want to bring my mother on board.
Yeah.
It is not, I don't think it is workable, and it should not be the right way to begin a relationship.
Okay, Mr. Kago, what do you feel about this one?
I think, as my friend says, culturally, traditionally, biblically, it should not be so.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that men need really to know, that there is an aspect of living when the Bible says a man shall leave his father and mother. You live emotionally, you live psychologically, you live physically. And therefore, the question of whether it is possible for such people to live in the same house, then it would beat the logic of us calling it a marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Kigwa, in life things happen, things that we don't predict. Perhaps the mother became bankrupt, perhaps she became sick, perhaps she just cannot afford to live on her own. So it necessitates that she has to depend on the son and daughter-in-law and live with them. So this means that while it is difficult, it is necessary sometimes.
Yes.
So when you look at this story, it is said that the woman complained that the mother just took over the house, and it seemed like it was hers, and she felt that she had been reduced to a house help.
Yes, I
now,
saw
so
the story.
who is on the wrong and who is on the right in this situation?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't even want to focus on who is wrong and who is right. I want to focus on what is right.
Yes.
And you see, as a fully mature human being or person, your marriage relationship should take precedence over everything else, over anyone else.
Right.
There's a place that no one else but your spouse should be able to come into your heart.
Right.
And they should not even be begging for your attention or your love. In fact, I would encourage women, if you are begging for love and attention of a man, do not even do that at all.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't think that you are valuable and worth enough to make sure that he gives precedence to the relationship that he has with you, then he is taking you for a ride.
Yes.
But I think there are special cases like you mentioned, like if a parent is sick, for example, you see that's a special case, and this parent is not coming here to live with you forever. I personally, there was a time my father came into my house because I had to take him to hospital, but he only stayed with me for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
But then again, I also had to sit down, talk with my wife, and we agreed that we need to take Papa to hospital. It's easier for him to be here in our house to be able to take care of him. So those are special cases. But where someone comes into the house, mother-in-law, and now takes over, I mean, that's really absurd.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that there should be a line.
Yes.
There should be boundaries.
Exactly.
So when this situation arises, would you say that the couple should have a conversation about it?
Precisely.
And what should this conversation look like? Because we don't want to feel like we're ostracizing the mother-in-law, but at the same time, there should be boundaries. So what should that conversation be like?
Okay, number one, you see, we actually don't know the real facts behind exactly what it is that made this woman say that, I mean, it's either you choose me or your mother-in-law.
Right.
If you look at, I read the story personally, and I was interested with the facts and the details.
Yes.
And the details are, for example, this couple, they were just about 4 years in marriage.
Yeah, very young.
4 years in marriage is very young.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, marriage has stages in growth. It grows just like any other entity. And the 4 years age, it's actually at the infancy stage. We might look at all these issues and find it was so silly that they actually parted over that. But let me tell you, in marriage, nothing is silly. Nothing is simple. I mean, a toothache means to you much more than something that is killing people out there. So these issues, what they should have done is should have sat down. If it was, for example, the special cases we are talking about, maybe the mother is bankrupt, or maybe there is she needs medical attention. They needed to have sat down and discuss my mother will be here for how long?
Yes.
How are we going to do it?
Okay.
Yes.
And now, like I had asked him earlier, we have situations that force the mother-in-law perhaps to move in. So should there be a conversation before this engagement begins so that we can know where the lines are drawn?
It is very, very important for a couple to sit down and communicate and agree on how the in-laws are going to be part and parcel of their relationship, to what extent. That really needs to be discussed. And the moment that is not discussed, you realize that the marriage relationship is at risk.
Right.
And I think I would blame this whole issue on the fact that this mother seems to be like she did not allow this boy to be individuated. You know, when we are raising children, we need to grow with them.
Yeah.
And it reaches a point whereby they really need to be allowed to think on their own, to be separate from you, because in as much as this is your son, you are not an extension to their own marriage. Yes. or relationship. And therefore you realize that some parents find it difficult, and especially mothers, because when we talk about what Sigmund Freud says, in the developmental stages of a child, you realize that there are some parents who are not able to allow their children to be.
Yeah.
And when that is not allowed, it's not given space, even when they get married, you tend to think that you still have, you continue hovering around, poking your nose in their relationship, because Oedipus complex says that a boy child and a mother tend to be so tight at the formative stage when they are,
right.
And a girl and a father. Okay. So you realize there are some parents who are not able to negotiate this phenomenon, and as time goes by, they are not able to disconnect themselves from the children. And this is what is giving birth to all these crises.
So essentially you're saying he's a mama's boy.
It could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyone found in that type of relationship could be a mama's boy.
Yes, to a very great extent.
Yeah, but mama's boys need wives too. So how would you advise a man out there who is so tight and having this similar sort of problems? How would you advise him to go about it? Because he might feel like he's betraying his mom by standing for his wife, but at the same time he needs to set himself up, as you have said. So how would a man go about it?
I have dealt with many of these cases, and to a very great extent, because in our Kenyan culture, it's a man who leaves the parents, and in as much as even the wife leaves her parents, but you will realize that it's to a very great extent, it's a man who didn't need to be on the steering. And I like telling young people or young men who find themselves in such a dilemma that they are actually as guilty as charged, because they really need to know that their family of origin does not extend to their own marriage. And for that reason, they also need to realize that they might have a very difficult life ahead, because if somebody cannot disconnect with the parent or with the mother, I have seen others who even want to stay a stone throw distance from where their parents are, so that their parents can keep on checking on them every morning to come and see whether the son has been fed, has been given food. And in such a relationship, the woman will definitely feel choked.
Right.
And I think it's the high time that young men got to know that there has to be that emotional disconnect between them and their parents.
All right. Yeah. Now I'll just hold that thought as we cross over to Chris Thairu, who is at the home of Governor Ferdinand Waititu, who has been raided by EACC official following allegations of graft that he has been facing. Let's cross over to Chris.
Well, a very good morning to you back in studio. We're coming to you live from Runda Estate, and it's house 110 10 that belongs to the Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu. Remember that the EACC detectives have been combing this house just behind me, and we understand that he is still inside, and it is an operation that started early in the morning. Remember that he has another home in Garden Estate, and they have been combing this house just to get the details and anything that can really lead to details, information in regards to the allegations by the Auditor General that it is believed that 2.1 billion shillings that were meant to for the county of Kiambu might have been misappropriated. And remember that detectives from the EACC have been investigating this case, and today they pounced on his homestead, and currently what is happening is that detectives are still going through combing all the details and documents that they might get that are connected with anything to do with the Kiambu County. Remember that when the governor appeared before the Public Accounts Committee for the Senate, there was some queries by the Auditor General in regards to the 1.2 billion shillings. Remember, there was some appropriations in terms of the allocations of funds. They were for the allocations were supposed to be for national government and not for county activities like for free primary education, activities like funding for the former heads of state, and also in regards to the retired president, and also for state house operations and functions. Although there were some issues in regards to whether it's true, we know that these investigations are still ongoing. What I can see is that there are some activities up and down, and it might be that in a few moments from now he might be whisked away. We have reports that they might be heading to the EACC offices at Integrity House, and from there we are not yet very sure whether he will be arraigned in court today or not, but the details still remain scanty. But what you can see is that there is a contingent of police officers just inside, and for the governor and his family, they are inside the building, their home. It is an operation that started early in the morning, and since these investigations started, we've seen some allegations and political stories that it might be politically instigated. And remember that we have also seen the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto, coming in the defense of the governor. That happened 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago when he attended a church service in Kiambu County, and indicated that the detectives or any issues or any queries that regards to the national government should be left for the national government, and Waititu should just be asked to do issues to do with the county, or to do with the misappropriation, or any allegations to do with the Kiambu County government. We also have information that other officers from Kiambu County will also be apprehended today, and what we understand is that currently the EACC detectives are still combing their houses. We have information that it's approximately 12 or 13 other officers. Also, EACC detectives are also currently at the headquarters, that's the Kiambu office's headquarters, just combing through all the details just to get information on what's really happening, or whether they can get any details. I'll just, my cameraman, be watch whether we can just snoop closer and see there's some documents. Just yes, we can see they're loading some of the documents that they got, the details from that house. And they are loading them to the vehicle. These are just some of the documents that the EFCC detective think that they can really help them in trying to get the nitty-gritties or the details of what really might have happened. And these allegations, remember that when the governor was elected, and after some few months, we saw there were an altercation between the Nairobi governor and the Kiambu governor. Remember, when the Kiambu governor was recorded by his colleague in Nairobi County, Mike Sonko, pleading that his wife could be released and workers. Remember, it was all about to do with some building he had acquired in Nairobi County, and there were some issues or queries on how he had managed to actually get all the money to do or get all that money to buy or acquire properties within the CBD just a few months after being elected into office. And so what is happening is that the ACC detectives are just loading some of the crucial documents that they have acquired from this home, and in a few minutes maybe they will be leaving this home, just noting that from here we are not yet very sure whether they will be heading to the EACC offices or to court, but what we understand is that this is just one of the homes that the EACC detectives have been combing through. Another home is in Garden Estate. That is, this is a new home that we believe that he moved in just a few months ago, because initially the reports were that his home was in Garden Estate, but now we are in Runda. This is just one of the homes, and there have been allegations and counter allegations as to whether the money has been misappropriated in Kiambu County, and we've seen even the first governor of Kiambu County, William Kabogo, actually telling people that yes, your money has been misappropriated, and it is time that maybe the people of Kiambu, the voters of Kiambu, should actually know or really come out and really protest. And we've seen actually demonstrations right, left, and center from Kiambu County, and the protests have been ongoing. And so far, that is the information that we have from the ground. We'll just we'll be camping here until we see the eventuality of these, but what we understand is that from here they might be heading to the EACC offices, that is at Integrity Center.
You have been told that his daughter's house is expected to be raided as well. Have you been able to establish whether that has happened or there are plans to have that happen soon?
Yes, what we know is that all houses have been raided, all his homes. I know is that this is one of the new homes that he has acquired in Runda, but we know he has another home in Garden Estate, and we understand the detectives are also at his Garden Estate home. But what I can add is that he's not the only person who is being investigated. There are other officials from Kiambu County. We are yet to get their positions and their names, but we understand they are around 13, and what we know is that also their homes have been raided, and in the course of the day, of course, we'll know their names and the positions that they hold in Kiambu County government.
Thyro there, senior political reporter, giving us an update on that raid. Of course, we'll give you more details as those events unfold. But for now, let's go back to our discussion that is all about the family unit and how a mother-in-law can be integrated in the family without being a source of conflict between a daughter and the son's mom. And over to you. You were talking about how this can be a discussion can be had before a conflict ensued. So, what are some of the measures that the couple can put in place?
The couple should first of all agree that they both come from a family.
Yes.
And those two families have a place, because again, we are not saying that you disconnect with your family completely, but there needs to be some boundaries.
Sure.
And I think even as we talk about this young man, I think even to this mother or to mothers out there, they are also to blame to some extent, because they feel like they don't want to let go of their sons.
Yeah.
And I think this must be a boy who has been having a problem right from their childhood, in that they are not allowed to be themselves. They are not allowed to get individuated. Maybe they come from these families that we call enmeshed families, whereby you don't know where you start and where you end. The mother doesn't know where she starts and where she ends in the internal world of this particular man. And therefore, when they get the transit to marriage, you realize that this becomes a problem. And this is somebody who probably might need to talk to a marriage therapist so that they can get some more assistance. Because I don't see how a mother or even a father would come and begin to take control over your house. Then it ceases to be marriage. And I think unless he addresses this problem, there is no other relationship he will be able to keep or maintain.
So, Mr. Kigwa, when you look at this situation, there's a mother, there's a son, and there's the son's mom, the mother-in-law, and there is a conflict. So, who should be the bigger person? Because in my view, I would think it is the mother-in-law who should be the bigger person and ensure that she is not a problem in the relationship, because perhaps the son would feel inclined to side with the mom, and the woman is feeling, betrayed or if some sort or some situation. So, what do you think? Who should be the bigger person in this situation?
Looking at it from your perspective, as you said, you think the mother-in-law, actually the mother to this man, should actually have been the bigger person.
Right.
From that perspective, you might as well be right, because I know there are some mother-in-laws actually and it has nothing to do with the boy not being an individual, having grown individually and grown matured, but they just want to bulldoze their way into their children's lives. So actually they interfere. But I think the person actually who's squarely responsible for whatever happened is the man. If you look at the story, you will see the woman was actually blaming the man for avoiding to resolve the conflict there was between the wife and the mother-in-law. In fact, the word is you avoided resolving these conflicts. And anytime in marriage, anytime someone is trying to avoid something, it doesn't disappear. It actually becomes a monster. So the man should have taken responsibility, because there is no doubt that in our context, in our African context, even from a biblical perspective, it is obvious that the woman leaves her home. But it is, the Bible talks about the man should leave his father and mother, because it is not obvious. Because a woman is obvious, but a man, it has to be conscious. But then, like he says, we shouldn't dissociate ourselves from the family. Because I also know of cases where there are some women, or I know some women complaining that my husband is calling his father or his mother, as if that is a crime to do. So there is also that wrong notion that you're supposed to disconnect, dissociate, and divorce completely from your extended family. Yes,
of course. And we were having some sentiments that were coming to us online with regards to this particular story, and I'm going to read one that says that's one lucky woman. I mean the wife. This is according to Fikile Nsikelelo, who said, she is spared a life of thinking she has a man in her life, when in the truth she's sleeping with a little boy who just happens to look like a man. Is this true? Is there a form of developmental gap when it comes to the man? Mr.
Very
Kago?
interesting.
And is she better off, sorry to interrupt, leaving?
Well, the question of whether she's better or not, I would not want to say that she's lucky or unlucky. But what I would want to say is that probably this is something that needed to be taken a notch higher by seeking even help. And I always tell our young people that your family can love you so much to a point of breaking your marriage.
Okay.
Because when they are coming to you, they are coming in the name of love. They care for you.
Yes.
And for that reason, you realize that you even lack boundaries, or in the name of love. And God knew this even when he was talking about the aspect of living, and living emotionally. Because if we cannot disconnect emotionally, and you become so conscious of what you are doing together with your wife, that you agree these are the boundaries that we are going to set for this particular home, you realize that it can be a big problem. But I'm curious, why is it that we are not hearing the father in this whole story?
Yes.
Why is he not in the equation? I'm curious, because again, you might realize that this is a family that, this young man and this young woman, there could be a certain pattern in that particular family. There's something we call transgenerational family patterns. And sometimes you realize that they have their ways of forming. Like, for example, if somebody comes from a home without a father, chances are if somebody does not work with you,
Yeah.
because again we must also say that we are living in a society whereby the man is under pressure, and
Yeah.
actually the man does not know what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
And for that reason, you realize what the society has taught us is that after you go through the rite of passage, you get married, you get a good job, a well-paying job, the society, that is the way it packages and it defines success.
Yes.
Whereby, to a very great extent, you will realize that success or being a man is much more than those transitions.
Yes.
And therefore, you realize that this young man, and of course, this young woman, they might need to sit down and objectively look at their family pattern.
Right.
Because there could be a pattern of not having a father.
That
And
is
because
true.
if you have grown up without a father, then it means you are so empty and you don't know, there are no resources inside yourself that would help you behave
Yeah.
and do things as a man should do.
Somebody
because
to-
you haven't seen it anywhere.
Somebody-
Because
yeah.
children learn by observing. And if the only person who has been the life of this man is this woman, then I am sorry to say there must be a lot of
Work that needs to be done.
feminine
Influence.
features and personalities in this particular
Mr.
man.
Kigwa, just briefly, could you tell us, in terms of a relationship, is this relationship then doomed if that is the reality?
No, let me tell you, it's only that we are talking about this thing. Of course, when something comes into the media, it looks sensational.
Yes.
But you see, this is actually not outside of the norm, what's happening in the society. And like I mentioned when I began, it's a very young relationship.
True.
And it would happen the same way even if the relationship was 8 years, because now as a relationship evolves and grows and develops, now the challenges also become different. This lady might as well have told the husband at some point in their life, it's either you choose your job or me. It is the same question. It's only that it shifts based on where the
It's an
relationship.
ultimatum.
So it is not anything outside the norm. It is the relationship grows, and as people, fortunately, as people grow, if they're evolving as human beings, because your relationship is only as good as you are emotionally, people have learned how to resolve the challenges, the difficulties. They have been able to put structures in their relationship to be able to solve challenges when they come. Yes.
So moving forward, when couples are facing this sort of problems, I'll start with you, Mr. Kigwa. What should be there? Because I feel strongly that it shouldn't have devolved into divorce.
Yes.
And it shouldn't devolve also into the mother being kicked out. So what would be the ideal solution? Just shortly before we go on a break.
I would say it in one word: talk,
Yeah.
open talk. The problem with people in relationship when something happens is that people are afraid to talk. They are afraid to communicate their true feelings because of fear of being victimized, because someone will be looking at you with a lens of biasness that you are saying this because this is my mother, not your mother,
yours.
it's my father, it's my brother. So they need to talk openly, and they need to have someone maturer than them on board who can actually help them.
Mr. Kago, what would be the ideal solution?
Now, I will answer that question by saying that information is generational, and so is ignorance.
Okay.
If this young man does not step out to seek help and to be informed, then that is the only time we can say that this relationship is doomed to fail.
Okay.
Because again, I see some couples who will put themselves in the closet. They don't want to know what is happening outside there. They think they are the only people who are going through that challenge. And you realize that in society there could be many other people.
Okay.
Lastly, I would also want to say that marriage is about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable to each other. So he might need to be vulnerable to this woman, and the woman also needs to be vulnerable to this man, so that they can allow each other to tour their hearts and get to know where there are worries, where there are anxieties, and where there are fears.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And on that note, Morning Express is going to take a short break. It is not doom and gloom. If you have, of course, for this relationship, it ended on a bad note. But maybe if you're going through that, perhaps you can take a leaf from what they have said and implement it in your own life. We take a short break. Do not go too far.
This is KTN News.
I told you to kick it more to the left.
No, kick it higher.
No, to the left.
Come on, guys, stop it. Remember the win.
Sportsbet, African betting partner of Tottenham Hotspur.
Why should you apply for KCB Lions Den? 1. To secure investment in your business. 2. To partner and be mentored by the Lions.
One of the things that I was really hoping for is to have the mentorship from somebody with much more business experience than myself.
If you want to learn, grow and succeed, then apply today. To apply, visit kcb2jiajiri.com. KCB Lions Den.
The biggest act in Africa is coming to Choma na Ngoma. Tarehe ni 31 Mei 2019 ndani ya KICC. Choma na Ngoma! Choma na Ngoma ina happen.
I'm so excited, it's already weekend.
Kwenye lineup, Nandi, Willy Paul.
The African.
Alicios, Heart the Band, Sauti Soul. Now all the way from Nigeria, Patoranking.
Making money was the plan.
VIP tickets 4,000, regular tickets 1,500. Tembelea www.ticketsasa.com kujipatia tikiti. Utajibamba, ujirushe na utafurahia utamu wa Kiafrika. Nyamchom, kuku choma, choma sausage, mshikaki. Radio Maisha inakupa fursa ya kujishindia tickets wewe na squad yako ya watu 5, mzinga na chakula. Sikiliza Radio Maisha kwa maelezo zaidi. Choma na Ngoma, tarehe 31 Mei 2019. Kubwa zaidi. Radio Maisha. Radio zaidi radio.
Years later, my ID is still being used by that person to con people.
Na kutokana na ile kuzungumza kwake, anazungumza vizuri sana mpaka mwenyewe unakubali, unaona kila kitu ni genuine.
Idadi ya Wakenya wanaotumia mtandao hususan kupitia rununu ikiendelea kuongezeka, nao magenge sugu wanaendelea kuongezeka na kubadili mbinu kutoka kwa uwizi wa kimabavu hadi uwizi na utapeli mtandaoni.
A cyber attacker a lot of the times has a lot of psychological strength in learning how you reason and how you conduct your day-to-day operations.
There are a certain kind of information that we are telling Kenyans, please don't share. Because if you share it, there is a possibility of somebody that is going to mine that information and use it against you.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back, and before we get back into the discussion on marriages and involvement of in-laws, let's get some updates on what's happening in Runda. Over to you, Michael.
All right, thank you very much, Trix. And yes, to that developing story where we have the governor for Kiambu County's homes raided this morning by EACC, and that is Governor Ferdinand Waitito. We do have our reporter, Chris Thyro, on the ground and basically just following up on what is happening there. Chris, I don't know if we have any more developments. We did see that the EACC officers with the police officers were there combing through some of the documentation in the cars and in the house. Do we know if they have found anything so far or any comments from them? Is right there. So what we're seeing are images, live images of Ferdinand Waitito, Governor Ferdinand Waitito's home, which has been raided this morning by EACC officers and the police. As we know so far, this is in connection with graft allegations in Kiambu County. And we do know that not too long ago he was before the Senate, and part of the things that came up in that particular sitting was the questions raised on budgets that were are reflecting, that are supposed to be on the national government budget, were on the Kiambu County budget. And of course, that was raising eyebrows. As far as Ferdinand Waitito's statement was concerned, he denied any knowledge of it and said, in fact, it was somebody who may have planted them there, or it was a ploy to make him look bad and possibly even have that expenditure put on Kiambu County, whereas Kiambu County had not had any of those budgets allocated or spent on them. So what we can see now are live images of his house where the EACC officers have stormed this morning. We also do have reports that they would be also raiding his daughter's house, looking for documents and I guess also anything that would validate what the suspicions are. So far, we do not have any statement or any information from the EACC themselves, other than the fact that they have indeed confirmed that they are the ones present at his house. We also have not had an opportunity to speak to the governor, Ferdinand Waitito, just to get information from him as to whether he was aware and what exactly the EACC officers may be looking for. So far, what we can see is the officers who are combing through literally his house, and earlier on we had seen them open up some of the cars and the vehicles that are in the compound looking for documents. We are not clear what exactly they may be looking for. There have been mums so far. Chris Thyro did try to engage one of them, but they were not willing to speak to us at that moment in time. So we continue to follow up on this and to keep you posted as the information comes in. We do know that the governors have been sitting before the Senate, and even at the point where those budgets that were reflecting on Kiambu County that were supposed to be for national government were not only on Kiambu County, there were other counties that were also found with budgets that were supposed to be taken by the national government appearing on their county government budgets, but all of them denied knowledge of that. We also do know that the COG, Weekly for Paranya, had also come out to say that that was unfair on the governors and it was something that needed to be investigated. We do know that also Governor Anne Waiguru had also come out to say that the Treasury should be held responsible and they should give answers as to how that happened, blaming it on IFMIS, which initially was supposed to be a foolproof system that ensures that accountability is seen, but that has not been the case. So of course we follow up on this and we'll keep you posted as we get more information. So we now want to go back to Black and White, where Trix Ingado is handling a very interesting subject, and that is to do with this particular story that came out not too long ago, where a man chose his mother over his wife. Well, over to you, Trix.
Thank you, Michael. And that is also the basis of our triple question. We were asking you earlier, is it advisable for a mother to live with her married son, in her married son's house? And of course, we had your sentiments coming in, and there was somebody who said there are exceptions though, if she's unwell, if it behoves the kids to take care of her. And we asked you to get in touch and tell us what you think. And somebody else says, Charles Ambere said, she absolutely has no role to play in that house. And is that my house? No, let's forget about that. But somebody else says, to make sure the daughter-in-law is staying in the right and straight lane. That is according to Els Gundo. I mean, that is really daunting to have a mother-in-law keeping you in check. I mean, Mr. Kigwa, when you see this sentiment, and we have another one that here says, we have, he deals with it on the basis of the situation. He makes a judgment and then decides whether to side with the daughter or the mother. When you see this type of sentiments coming out of the people online, what do you feel?
Especially with the last one you mentioned about him deciding based on the situation, he decides.
Yeah.
You know, in a relationship, it's not a place you try to flex your muscle as the man or even a woman, because nobody brings in more than the other.
Right.
You contribute to the relationship in equal measure, because you cannot make a marriage relationship alone. So you cannot say, I deal with it myself. And again, even if you do that, what is informing your choice and decision? It is your own value system, which again may not necessarily be correct.
Or might have been imparted by the said mother.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you might be inclined to side with his mom anyway. Mr. Kago, what do you feel about the man dealing with it based on the situation or the severity of the situations?
Well, I think that's a very dangerous way of looking at it, because number one, it's not all situations that matters, and it is not all situations that matter to you that matters to the other party.
Right.
And therefore, that will begin to bring even a lot of more conflicts. And I wish to say that the whole essence of marriage is to make the other person become a better version of himself and herself.
Sure.
And number two, if somebody does not know the need as to why, or rather the need that he wanted to feel, or the gap that he wanted to feel by getting married, you realize that this can again become a big problem even in marriage. Number three, you realize that we are again not patient with each other. We are not patient with each other, and it is on this basis that I will say that even this particular marriage can be salvaged.
Yes.
4 years is just,
too short.
It's too short,
for them to call it quit. Because we need to be patient. And I like telling young people every time I'm conducting premarital classes that you think somebody whom you got to know when she was 30, or you were 30, she was 28, that is a building that has taken all that long to come up. Not even a KICC took that long to be put up.
Right.
Then you want to deconstruct this particular building overnight. That cannot happen. And therefore, they need to be patient with one another. They need to bear each other's burdens. And they need to strive to making the other party become a better version of themselves. Because if marriage cannot improve you, then I don't know where else you would be improved.
So basically, it's the mother-in-law who should integrate herself into your unit and not bond with the son and try and keep things the way they were before, right?
Yeah, I'm even feeling agitated when we continue mentioning this
mother-in-law.
in this relationship. Because I actually don't know what she is doing there. If she is not sick to a point that she needs some attention of the children.
Yeah, and we had a couple of our commentators saying that they feel that the man should have rented a house elsewhere for the mom, maybe close by if she needs that kind of attention, but not to have them in the same household, or partitioned it. But then there was the request for a partitioning, but the man refused. So I think she was painted into a tough corner.
We are not saying that she cannot come to that house.
Yes.
But you need to come to my house and behave. Observe boundaries. And for a reason.
Yes, not just.
So if it is this business of just storming into your son's house, like some few case I had some years back, whereby a mother is coming to check whether the son has been given breakfast, whether he has been the clothes have been ironed. It can be an absolute sad. Yeah, it's very sad.
Mr. Kigwa, this man his marriage has been destroyed basically because they were granted that divorce. But then moving forward, we expect that he will marry again. He's not going to change his mother. It's the same mother, and perhaps the situation will be the same, him hoping for a different result. What advice would you give him?
First of all, I would want him to know that actually his marriage was not destroyed.
Yeah.
He destroyed it himself.
Right.
He failed in giving leadership in terms of telling his mother, Mom, look, I love you, but I also love my wife, and I love my wife more. I think he failed. And if he's going to get married, in fact, I would advise that he actually reconsiders, now that they already have children with this lady, 2 children, maybe like Moffat says, but it can even be salvaged before he even thinks of going out there getting someone else. But he needs to grow. Marriage is not for babies. It is for a man and woman. It doesn't say a boy and a girl shall leave their father. It talks about a man
and a woman. Thank you very much, Mr. Kwigwe and Mr. Kago, who have been very instrumental in dissecting this issue. And of course, if you're faced with this difficulty, hopefully this discussion helped you. I'll throw it over to Michael Gitonga to give us the feedback on our question of the